The bell above the door chimed softly as Darius stepped into the lavish interior of Crownstone Bank in downtown Nashville. The air smelled faintly of leather and polished wood, with the quiet murmurs of business transactions echoing off the high marble ceilings. Darius, dressed sharply in a tailored navy suit, carried himself with quiet confidence as he approached the teller line. He held a check in his hand, a large one, and his expression was calm, almost unreadable. The line moved slowly, but Darius didn't seem to mind. He observed the chandeliers casting warm light over customers seated in plush chairs. The bank exuded prestige, the kind of place that assumed its patrons had earned the right to be there. When it was finally his turn, Darius stepped forward and handed the check to the young teller behind the counter. She glanced at it, her eyebrows lifting slightly at the amount before her face shifted into something more neutral. "I'll need to call my manager to approve this, sir," she said, her tone polite but hesitant. Darius nodded, offering a small reassuring smile. "Of course. Take your time." Moments later, a man appeared, mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, wearing an expensive suit that seemed designed to command authority. Mr. Simmons, the bank manager, approached briskly. His eyes immediately darted to the check, flickering to Darius with the briefest hesitation. There was a pause, a subtle narrowing of Simmons's eyes. "Excuse me, sir," Simmons began, his voice low but firm. "Do you have any ID to go with this check?" Darius calmly reached into his pocket, pulling out his driver's license and sliding it across the counter. Simmons barely glanced at it before handing it back, his expression tight. "I see. Well, I'll need to verify this with the issuing party," Simmons said, holding the check as though it were a suspicious artifact. Something in the air shifted, subtle, but unmistakable. This wasn't just about procedure, it was personal. "Is there an issue?" Darius asked, his tone measured but firm. Simmons didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at the check, the corners of his mouth tugging downward. "Just give me a moment," he muttered before walking away toward his office. Minutes passed as Darius remained at the counter, his calm demeanor a sharp contrast to the buzzing activity around him. A faint murmur of whispers started from a few customers nearby, their curious glances darting toward him. Simmons reappeared, holding the check in one hand, his expression stern. "I've looked into this. Mr. Darius, is it?" Simmons deliberately left off his last name, as though it didn't matter. "This check raises some red flags. Can you tell me where you got it?" Darius tilted his head slightly, studying Simmons. "It was issued to me as payment for a business transaction. Everything is in order, I assure you." Simmons pressed his lips into a thin line. "A business transaction, you say?" He leaned in slightly, his voice lowering but losing none of its edge. "And what business are you in?" Darius didn't waver. "I'm in real estate development." Simmons let out a dry chuckle, shaking his head. "Real estate, huh? Must be quite a deal to warrant a check like this." He waved the paper slightly, drawing attention to it. His tone sharpened. "Look, these things don't just fall out of the sky. I'm going to have to decline this transaction." The words hung in the air like a slap. "You haven't verified anything yet," Darius said, his voice steady but edged with frustration. "The issuing party's contact information is right there. Call them." Simmons waved him off dismissively. "I don't need to waste my time chasing down details for something that's obviously suspicious." Darius took a step closer to the counter, his calm now threaded with quiet intensity. "So you're refusing to validate this check because, why, exactly?" Simmons shrugged. "Look, these procedures are in place for a reason. It's not personal." But the way his eyes lingered on Darius told a different story. "If it's not personal, then why not follow standard protocol and verify it?" Darius asked. "Or are you suggesting I don't belong here?" A smirk tugged at the corners of Simmons's mouth. "Sir, this bank reserves the right to refuse service if something seems off, and frankly, this doesn't look right to me." A murmur spread through the room. Customers and staff exchanged uneasy glances. Darius exhaled slowly, his patience thinning. "Interesting," he said quietly. He straightened his jacket, his movements deliberate. "So you're making a decision based on feelings rather than facts." Simmons's smirk faded slightly. "Sir, I don't have to explain myself further." Darius held his gaze a moment longer before slowly reaching for the check still in Simmons's hand. "If that's your final decision, I'll handle this another way." As he turned away, Simmons muttered just loud enough for him to hear, "Some people really don't know when to quit." Darius's expression betrayed nothing, but the look in his eyes promised this wasn't over. Pulling out his phone, he made a brief call, his voice low and measured. Simmons, watching from the counter, leaned back, addressing the growing audience. "We have to be vigilant with fraud these days," he said smugly. "Not everyone comes in here with honest intentions." Then, the sound of heavy footsteps broke the uneasy silence. A group of sharply dressed individuals entered the bank, their presence commanding immediate attention. The leader, a tall woman in a sharp blazer, scanned the room before her eyes landed on Darius. "Mr. Charles," she said warmly, her tone respectful. "I came as soon as I got your call." The room fell into stunned silence. Simmons's face paled. "Valued partner," he echoed weakly. The woman's eyes narrowed. "Not just a partner. Mr. Charles is the majority shareholder in this institution." Gasps rippled through the bank. The teller covered her mouth in shock. Darius remained silent, letting the weight of the revelation settle over the room. Simmons stumbled over his words. I didn't know." "You didn't know because you didn't bother to find out," Darius interjected. "You judged me the moment I walked in and chose to humiliate me rather than verify the facts." The executive turned to Simmons, her voice icy. "Your behavior today was unacceptable. Our institution prides itself on integrity and respect for all clients, regardless of how they look or what assumptions you make about them." Simmons opened his mouth to protest, but she cut him off. "Save it. Your actions have been documented, and we will be addressing them internally." Darius looked around the room before speaking, his voice calm but carrying the gravity of the moment. "This isn't just about me. It's about how people are treated when assumptions replace facts, when bias overrides professionalism." A hushed silence fell over the room. The executive nodded. "Mr. Charles, we deeply regret what happened today. We will be taking immediate steps to address this." Darius offered a small, thoughtful smile. "That's a start. But remember, change doesn't come from policies alone, it comes from people choosing to do better every day." With that, he turned to leave. His footsteps echoed across the marble floor, a sound that carried the weight of justice, dignity, and the promise of change.